Welcome to a point for reflection for Thursday, the 4th of June 2020. This reflection is based on the reading from Mark chapter 7, verses 24 to 30. From there, Jesus set out and went away to the region of Tyre. He entered a house and did not want anyone to know he was there. Yet he could not escape notice. But a woman whose little daughter had an unclean spirit immediately heard about him, and she came and bowed down at his feet. Now the woman was a Gentile of Syrophoenician origin. She begged him to cast the demon out of her daughter. He said to her, "Let the children be fed first, for it is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." But she answered him, "Sir, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." Then he said to her, "For saying that, you may go. The demon has left your daughter." So she went home, found the child lying on the bed, and the demon gone. Do you think that lives matter? Life in its great diversity is a beautiful thing, and across our world we can discover a whole variety of cultures and experiences which at times may challenge us, but can also enable us to grow as human beings. I wonder, though, if we need to answer that question, do you think that lives matter? How we answer that question may reveal to us our own prejudices, which may actually shock us. Throughout my life, it has been clear that at certain times there have been statements issued by people in authority that have implied some people's lives don't matter as much as someone else's. Whether that has been the single teenage mothers that get on your bike to find a job unemployed, minors, the youth, the elderly, the homosexual. There has always been someone who devalues another and gives them a label. Our news has been dominated by the events surrounding the tragic death of George Floyd. Once again, we have seen how authorities have let us down, and the effect of that incident is felt more widely than just the city, state, or country that it happened in. Before we begin to join in with the Black Lives Matter, we have to face up to the prejudices we may be holding on to, even covertly. I remember hearing a minister talk about this passage from Mark in a district council meeting many years ago. In a previous life, the minister had been an attorney in America, and she addressed the district council members as if they were the jury, making eye contact and asking people to examine their conscience as they heard this story read. According to Mark's account of the gospel, Jesus has left the land of Israel and travelled to a foreign territory to get away from everything. His reputation had obviously gone before him, and this Syrophoenician woman came to him for help. Initially, Jesus refuses, and by implication refers to this woman as a dog. No matter how we try and tidy it up, there is an element where that is nothing more than an insult. We can look to reasons for it, a very human reaction to the fatigue Jesus may have been feeling, and the interruption to his time away from the crowds. But it is the reaction of the woman which makes Jesus reconsider. As the attorney minister addressed the council, they were increasingly uncomfortable, and many said afterwards they didn't like it. The minister was ultimately talking about racial justice, which is now marked by a Sunday in February each year. This story does seem to be a turning point in Jesus' ministry, where he recognizes that his message of God's love was not just for the Jewish people, but also for the Gentiles, that this message excluded no one. It seems to be a tying up of his thinking expressed in the previous verses, where he says to the assembled crowd in verses 14 to 15 and then 20 to 23, "Listen to me, all of you, and understand. There is nothing outside a person that by going in can defile, but the things that come out are what defile. It is what comes out of you that makes you unclean. For from the inside, from your heart, come the evil ideas which lead you to do immoral things, to rob, kill, commit adultery, be greedy, and do all sorts of evil things. Deceit, indecency, jealousy, slander, pride, and folly. All these evil things come from inside you and make you unclean. Here we see Jesus practically realizing what his words mean. Jesus seems to then stay in this Gentile territory, performing miracles, and even a second feeding miracle where 7 loaves feed 4,000 people. From this, the principle of faith should be to exclude no one, and to consider how we treat people. That old adage of treating people as you would like to be treated yourself seems more pertinent than ever. The outpouring of anger there has been to the death of George Floyd is in reality a hopeful sign. Enough is enough of the prejudices that have been a constant throughout human history. It is wholly unjust that it takes yet another death before people call for change. I imagine we all have opinions about the stories we hear, some people more than others. We take sides and wonder what the truth in a situation is. Sometimes it is our own attitudes or our own prejudices that inform our opinions. Some see all people of faith as hypocrites. After seeing a Bible waved in front of a damaged church building for the press this week, you may begin to understand where such attitudes come from. People of faith have been known to dismiss those outside the church as sinners, not belonging, not. We do need to examine how faith has contributed to the problems of prejudice and racism. It is well documented the role of the Dutch Reformed Church in the apartheid system in South Africa, and there are all sorts of question marks throughout history of the church's behaviour toward the Jewish people. Faith has promoted patriarchal systems and have not treated women as equal. Even when the ordination of women has been permitted, there have been systems put in place in some denominations for people to opt out. It is not only men who have a problem with female ordination. Does our faith really advocate such behaviour? Or is it the way we read into it? Or the ways we try and just justify ourselves? We try and pride ourselves in living with systems we purport to be fair, equal and just. The behaviour witnessed this week shakes our systems to its core. It is only just over 50 years since segregation was abolished in the USA, the land of the free, where the American dream was supposed to be available for all. We are not really any better in this country with the experiences of the Windrush generation, Stephen Lawrence, or even the signs from the middle of the last century that declared there was no B&B room for blacks or Irish. Yet our faith at its core is God's love for the whole of humanity, which we are called by God to reflect in the world around us, and that is only really seen in the way we treat another. It is only when we let love be our guide and goal that we can live by the truth of all lives matter. It is only when we put right past wrongs and enable love's healing to occur that we may finally declare Black Lives Matter. It is only when the barriers between peoples are removed that we will truly see God's kingdom among us. Loving God, for the prejudices that harm and divide, forgive us. For the systems that allow people to be treated as second class, forgive us. For our silence in the face of hatred and abuse, forgive us. Give us a vision of your kingdom where all are welcome, all belong, and divisions are destroyed. Amen.